So for Thursday, March 14th, can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Beagle,
I'm here.
Deputy Mayor Resnick,
Present.
Councilmember Behrman,
Present.
Councilmember Gotchel,
Here.
Councilmember Grenlin Fox,
Here.
Councilmember Sharp,
Present.
Councilmember Smiley,
Here.
quorum present.
Thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda tonight as presented. City Manager Brown,
I have none, sir.
anything to dais? All right. Next up is a presentation. We have one presentation tonight, and that's the Wixom DDA informal presentation. Our DDA Director, Laura Cloutier, will be doing the presentation tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for allowing us to do this presentation for you. We respectfully submit this report of our activities and our goals. So we have two presentation dates tonight, and we're going to do one later in the year, in November, on the 28th. By law, the DDA is to do two informational presentations, either at a city council meeting, part of our DDA meeting, or we can hold it on a separate night as well. The DDA meets a total of 12 times this year with our monthly board meetings, and we have a special meeting in August to prepare last minute details for Block Party and some of the early fall events. We hold a budget session, which we did just last week, and in the fall we hold a strategic planning meeting. Our board of directors, some of them are here tonight. Russ Meredith, our chairperson. Carissa Osborne, our vice chair, owner of Spray Chic Airbrush Danny. Mayor Beagle. Jessica Buck, resident in Wixom. Mark Garmo, owner of Wixom Liquor and a resident in Wixom. Katie Gazowski, resident of Wixom. Leslie Payment, she works for Michigan Community Insurance and is a resident. Kristen Resnick, owner of Drafting Table and a downtown resident, and Vanessa Willett, resident of Wixom. We also have staff, myself, Drew Benson, Steve Brown, Deanna McGee, Tim Sigma, Marilyn Stamper, and Mona Freiberg, who all help support the DDA in various ways. How is the DDA funded? The DDA's primary source of revenue is tax increment funding, which is otherwise known as TIF. The TIF capture occurs through the normal increase of property taxes over the base year that the DDA was founded. This is due to new investments of building of homes and businesses and or inflation. So as the property values rise, the DDA district over that base year captures that increased value and invests those funds back into the district. We have a few primary priorities of focus for 2023. We currently have an RFP out for the West End Sidewalk project. This is the sidewalk between Auto 1 and the Wixom Family Pet Clinic. As you guys have probably seen, it's all brick pavers. They're starting to come up due to weather and tree roots, and it's been a danger for a few years. The DDA now has money to replace it. So we're hopeful we should be seeing what RFP proposals come in next week. And we have dedicated $300,000 to this project back into the community. Renton area redevelopment, which this body approved the proposal from Carlisle Wortman at your last meeting. We just kicked this off. I'm sure Drew will expand on that in his report. So we're looking forward to working with the city on this development of city-owned parcels. The Civic Center Playground, the DDA has committed $250,000 for the redevelopment of the playground next to the library in conjunction with the library board and the Parks and Rec Commission. One thing the DDA is really focused on for 2003 is to increase the maintenance in downtown. And we are looking at to put money towards a employee to add to DPW for this maintenance. That would primarily be for the downtown and maintenance of clearing the sidewalks, make sure the garbage cans are emptied in a timely fashion, and those things. And this is a rendering of what the new sidewalk would look like at the west end. Some of our recent projects, as everybody knows, the Junction. This is expanding with, hopefully soon, El Camino will get their permit and liquor license. The construction of the walking path around City Hall. We've expanded the footprint of the hanging baskets as well, and this has been a total investment over $80,000 back into the downtown. Future projects and beyond, Renton, as I stated before, the Renton Area Redevelopment Project. The Junction West End Common Area, which this is a rendering we had done of what we envision the parcel at Pontiac Trail and Old Wixom Road to look like in the future. The Civic Center walking path expansion and playscape build out. Pontiac Trail streetscape, we're looking to redo the sidewalk from Alternative Healing down to PNC Bank and bury those power lines and widen the sidewalk. And to install the rest of the bike racks and reinstall the bike racks that were taken out due to the expansion of the Michigan Airline Trail. And as I stated before, expanded maintenance for the downtown. We had 4 new businesses open up in downtown or in the VCA area, El Camino, Wixom. The most notable one that that I've given out to businesses the information is the Inclusive Backing Grant, which was a $5,000 grant. And when these grant opportunities come around, I automatically email them out to businesses. And if it's notable for the DDA to apply, we work on that as well. DDA hosts many events and initiatives, Wednesdays in Wixom, Sip and Stroll, Earth Day Cleanup, Derby Day, Get Fit Here, Block Party, the Treat Hunt, Downtown Dazzle, Candy Cane Lane, and contributed funding for concerts in the park, the Tree Lighting Festival, and other city-sponsored downtown events. We are fortunate to partner with many local businesses here in Wixom that provide us sponsorships for our events initiatives. We have received over $20,000 monetarily and in-kind donations and sponsorships. This is just a sampling of some of the businesses that have supported us over the years. Our volunteers, we love our volunteers because I think everybody knows how many volunteers it takes to put on one of our events. So we have over 70,000 volunteers in our database with over 1,200 hours. We have an organization committee for the DDA that is dedicated to volunteer management, and we will be holding on May 15th a volunteer appreciation appetizer, happy hour event at Wixom Station. So we are always looking for new volunteers, but we want to say thank you to the ones that we've had over the years at this event on May 15th. We do a ton of professional development. There's a yearly Main Street Managers and Board training provided by Main Street Oakland County. I attend monthly Main Street Manager meetings. I've attended, along with 2 board members the past 2 years, the Michigan Downtown Association Conference, and many other opportunities as you see here. The DDA does hold some contracts. We have website and social media development and maintenance with Donco Marketing. Our hanging flower baskets are through Landscape Design and Associates. Our Derby Day event for timing services and race setup is through Trivium Racing. Christmas decor this past year did the installation of the holiday lights. I know it wasn't to everybody's liking, but we are working on that for next year. And of course, the City of Wixom for administrative, financial, and maintenance support. Last year, the DDA was recognized for our Wednesdays in Wixom program through Main Street Oakland County. We won the Program on the Rise Award at their main event last May. We're really proud of that. This award recognized a program in downtowns with minimal budgets. We run this program. Last year we ran the program when we won the award on a $600 budget. And we were able to surprise over 20 people and pay bills on that $600 budget. So it's a fun program, it's a heartwarming program, and we're very proud to be recognized for that. This past fall, early winter, in December, we partnered with SEMCOG in their Shop Local campaign, and they featured downtown Wixom. This video, which I will play here in a second, received over 47 likes and interactions through social media. We thank SEMCOG for this opportunity. We thank the residents and supporters and businesses that came out to help us film this video and be our extras in the video. And I'll play it for you now.
The City of Wixom is home to over 850 businesses. The vast majority have 20 employees or less. That's why it's such a big deal that everyone come out and shop local, whether it's downtown or anywhere in our community. If you haven't been to Wixom in a while, you'd be excited to see the new Phase 2 of the Airline Trail, which is part of a larger trail network that will take you from South Haven to Port Huron. These are businesses owned by your neighbors and my neighbors who are trying to make a living and trying to help keep our community special and unique. When you're thinking about where to spend time with your family or where to find gifts for your friends, please come and check out downtown Wixom. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Hey, Laura, that was 4,700 likes and views, not 47.
Did I say 47? I'm sorry, 4,700, yes. Yeah, just 47, we're not very popular. Yes, 47.
Yeah, we would have had 50 if it wasn't for Drew.
Right.
Thank you to our on-air talent.
I was going to say, I would like to clarify, Laura was supposed to also be interviewed for that as well, but we sort of ran out of time and I feel bad about it.
No, I said I didn't want to be on camera. So it was all about you that day. Oh, sorry.
What should I get?
Okay.
48 views.
Sorry about that. It's not moving to my next slide. There we go. And that is my presentation. This is my contact number. Thank you for allowing me to present in front of you tonight. I will take any questions or remarks if you have any.
Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Thank you. Yeah, I took note of your sponsorship page there. There's a smattering of businesses, but we from time to time have businesses that come before City Council looking for tax abatements, and they are given those, and it would be good to coordinate maybe with the mayor and find out who still has active tax abatements and make sure that they...
We've already done that.
Good.
That will be actually part of our next tax pay review committee meeting.
Yep.
As an aside, but yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I did notice some of them on there.
Yeah,
Councilmember Gaccio?
Thank you. Looking forward to hopefully warmer weather in the not too distant future. With the junction, I know we had talked about doing biodegradable cups and whatnot. Have we been able to move forward on that?
Yeah, so Wixom Station and Drafting Table are already doing it.
Okay.
And that is the plan, assuming that we can get them for El Camino as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Smiley?
Thank you, Mayor Beagle. Ms. Flutie, that was a great presentation. That was a great picture of you with the award too. I
Thank
liked
you.
that. It came out nice. And just that YouTube link at the bottom. There, is that where can I find that video there? 'Cause I hadn't seen that before. Is that relatively new or?
It was done mid-December.
Oh, okay. That's great. I should.
It's been on our
Push that
Facebook page
around.
as well. If you're on Facebook and follow Downtown Wixom, we've pushed it out on there.
I follow so many things, but I will make a point to make sure I get it because yeah, that's a great. I mean, it makes Wixom look fantastic, and not that it isn't. But yeah, I like to.
Makes it look better than it
share
already
that
is.
with you. Not at all. Well, we know where the potholes are. That's all. Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's great.
Councilmember Behrman?
Thank you. You know, the one thing I noticed with the presentation that kind of excited me was the concept that you were looking to put some money into the DPW to have an employee for maintenance. As I was talking with you and Tim prior to the meeting tonight, like that fence at Wixom on Pontiac Trail that got taken out this week.
Yep.
It really would be nice if we had a DPW employee that could pick up that fence, and because that's the first thing people see when they come downtown, the fence just laying there on the sidewalk doesn't look inviting. And hopefully we can put some money into having spare fences to replace this when that happens in the future.
Councilmember Sherb?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Cloutier, what was the problem with the Christmas lights? Were they on too early?
No, some people thought they looked a little
I
haphazard.
thought Councilmember Behrman might answer that one.
No.
What was the problem?
They were red and white.
No, we got some comments that they weren't as uniform looking as previous years. We went with a new company. They have a different style. It was last minute because the company we used previously told us at the last minute they couldn't do it because the trees are too tall. So, you know, we're working with this company and trying to get a few more quotes. So I'm sure I'll be coming to you with a new contract. So
And they were on too early. Those two things.
they were on too early, yes.
Before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well,
We had some good
we
media
could
coverage.
play off of that in the future, maybe.
All right.
Some people like this.
Councilmember Grellen Fox?
Thank you. Very nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Great presentation, a lot of exciting things, and we're happy to have the DDA help us out with a lot of stuff. Thanks. All right, moving on. We got 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. The first is the special city council meeting of February 28th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions, comments, additions, corrections? I got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the special city council meeting of February 28th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second set of minutes is the regular city council meeting of February 28th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Any questions, additions, corrections? Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last order of business had 5 ayes and 2 nays, but there's only 4 ayes mentioned in the list.
What page is that?
14. I got page 11 here, I think, but.
Page 11.
Oh, wait, no, that's not it, yeah.
Yeah, there's 5 there.
14 then, sorry, thank you, Keenan.
Oh, I'm missing somebody. Okay, I will add that. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
I got a motion and a second to approve the regular city council meeting, amended city council meeting minutes of February 28th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence, we have 2 items of correspondence tonight. One is the notice of hearing for the customers of DTE Electric Company, case number U-21245, and Oakland County Treasurer's Office Foreclosure Prevention. And that leads us to the first call to the public. I'll read the rules to the public. They are as follows. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included in the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council, and all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the first call to the public and move on to city manager's reports. We have two. The first one is the fire monthly report of January 2022. Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you. Chief Kiesler, you knew we were going to call you to the podium eventually.
That's right.
Thank you so much for including the response times now in the report in January or prior calls. Is there a goal? Do you have a set goal that you want to get that to, or?
Well, we need to keep it under 7 minutes per the state mandate.
So the state mandate?
So the state is 7 minutes, and just by increasing our staffing to the 24-hour coverage, we've done that.
Great.
So I would always like to get it lower, but we have now achieved our goal of getting it under 7 minutes.
Very good. Thank you.
Councilmember Gacho.
Thank you. It was nice seeing the times in there. Do you plan to continue including those, or was that just?
I will include those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's a great improvement. It's another extra added feature that our citizens deserve. Thanks, and it's under your leadership, so thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Police monthly report, January 2020. Any questions for Chief Langmeyer? Councilmember Grella Fox. You've gotten off easy the past couple of months, so.
Right. Hi, Chief. I noticed that in the report, crime has went up, with calls for service, I should say, not crime, but the calls for service have went up over 400 calls, and specifically the Part A crimes. Can you talk about that a little bit and maybe your plan for addressing those increases?
There's been a slight increase in our Part A crimes, you're right. About, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's about 10 extra calls this month, this January month compared to last year. The big increase we've got is in our Part C classifications, our miscellaneous calls for service. That's where the big increase is. That increase is really attributed a lot to COVID. COVID took a nosedive. Our numbers are coming back to where they were pre-COVID time. That's what we expect. On top of that, you folks have heard me at subdivision meetings that I want people to call. So call the police department, please. Get us out there when you see something strange in your neighborhood. For the Part A crimes, the biggest increase that we're seeing there again is the larceny, the CATCON thefts. And we're working them as much as we can, but again, they're sporadic and all over the place. We're working together with our neighboring jurisdictions to see if we can put some stuff together to maybe slow this down a little bit, but it's difficult at best, we shall say.
And is it a particular vehicle that is being targeted?
No, we've had them at the industrial areas where they're taking them off the big trucks. I believe we have one that was 6 or 7 that was cut off with one at Airmark. We have them in the subdivisions over here where they're taking off anything they can get up there. It's very, very sporadic. It's basically they're going to wherever they can be left alone for a little while.
So lock your doors for residents, lock your doors.
Yes, but these are the CATCONs where they're crawling right underneath the car and cutting the catalytic converters right off, and then they're out of there as quickly as they can. We have been able to develop some leads, and we're pursuing those leads, but we'll see where those cases go.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event. The items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion?
So,
Support.
I got motion and support to approve the consent agenda as presented tonight. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished business, we have none tonight. The tabled item, we are still waiting for some updated information on this item, so we will be tabling it again and bringing it up at a later date. So we'll move on to new business number 1, which is a recommendation to award the 2023 Major Road West Maple Program to Cadillac Asphalt LLC of Wixom, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $1,513,067.52 from Major Road Construction account number 202-553-974.395 and authorize the associated budget amendment. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Support.
Very good. City Manager Brown?
I'll turn it over to DPW Director Tim Sigmund.
Okay, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of west of Maple Road, and that's west of Wixom, between Wixom and Beck Road. And this has been a budgeted item. It is considerably more than we had initially anticipated. A lot of that is based on some of the undercuts that are required, and also the increases in inflation and labor costs that have occurred. We have the bid tabs established in the report, and they kind of estimate what would be done throughout that project, and gives cost structures for each of those. And with that, I'd be open to questions.
All right, for those out there in TV land, that the neighborhood association meeting we went to, they felt we were doubting and weren't going to do this. Well, we told you it was going to be done, and it's going to be done. Councilmember Gacho.
Thank you. Kind of related to the project with this, I know in the past a few times I've asked for an electronic budget version, if we can get that to be helpful for things like this. Since we're pulling out from major road fund balance, what is the resulting amount, since we're going over here and we have to do a budget amendment?
So this we are actually taking it back out of the road balance, and what would happen is, it moves things over to the right, and we are anticipating a possible change in 2024 with new road millages, and we would make recommendations at that time if we feel that it's necessary to add or change that road millage. But right now it is coming out of Act 51 and the road millage finances for that.
Is it, since it's so far over though, I know in our previous discussions, you've said we kind of do like one big project every other year because we have to save up in that in-between year.
Yeah.
So being that this is $500,000 over, was it? What kind of impact does that have for next year's project?
For next year's project, we would end up, probably waiting a portion of time, a year most likely, for a major road project, and that would be the next one is anticipated as Potter Road on those, so that we did have that scheduled already in 25, 26, I believe, or 26, 27.
I think you.
26, 27, yes.
All right, so it would have an impact.
It will have an impact, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Smiley?
thank you, Mayor Beagle. Hello, Mr. Sigmund. You said the reasons for the increase, and I understand, you said undercuts and inflation. I get inflation. What's undercut?
So an undercut is just a full reconstruction of the road, so we have to cut into the base material of the road in certain sections that have degraded. Some of that's just...
so it's more that's necessary than you originally thought.
Yep. And it's really tough to estimate that until you get soil borings, and they did the soil borings late fall, and so they were able to get some of that.
You see that's mostly where the extra cost, or is it?
No, I think a lot of it
inflation? And I know
is the inflation
materials
factor.
costs are probably all over the place from a year ago.
Right. I think we did well as far as getting our RFP out early enough that we did benefit from that, because they're scheduling their time for our project initially first, if you will. And so if we would have had it out later, prices would probably have ended up going up, just because now they're committed to our project instead of a different one. So we're trying to, I don't know, juggle to make sure that we get it in before, say the road commissioner. I mean, that's a pretty large example, but other communities.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thanks, that's helpful. That's all.
Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Sigma, first, thank you for all the detail in here, and I know you and I had some communication this week on there. It is shocking to miss by 50% on $1 million budget, out of $12 billion our total expenditures for the year. So, but I was happy to see 4 solid quotes, and we're all pretty tight. We're not skimping on this thing. I'm also excited to get the work from Spalding to Decker. They're a new company for us in engineering, and so I want to say I support the program. I'm not happy with going over by 50%. I'm hoping that will apply, and we'll use these numbers for 2024, which of course we will. I was driving on Potter Road today. I don't think that road can last another 2 years. We're going to have to do that one in 2024, that feels like. But I think to just blame it all on inflation is probably oversimplification. I think that probably more has to do with the status of the road itself, and the degradation was more than expected. The reason I say that is when we go 3 business items down, or next business item, the seal coating went up 5%. The seal coating is oil-based asphalt, essentially liquefied. It's the same stuff. So I wouldn't say it's just inflation. There's more to it than that. But I just want to put that out there for consideration. Anyway, thank you.
If I can just add on to that a little bit, there's major projects that we look at. There's an ongoing effort to look at the possibility of a major project on Beck Road, for example. We've updated our cost estimates. We've increased that cost estimate on the Beck Road project and the various sections underneath there at 35% from a prior year. And we've just added an additional 10% onto that currently. So that's 45% over the last two years or so. So I can appreciate the concern, but the costs in the paving business are spiraling upward at a much higher rate than inflationary factors elsewhere. Did have a conversation today about this, where if you looked at year-over-year inflation of about 7%, that would be about $145,000 increase on that project. Instead, it was about $500,000. It's just the impact is disproportional in the paving business, because material costs have gone upward. The supply of money, if you will, has gone upward with infrastructure funding and things of that nature have been made available to locals and states. And you have the same amount of resources, supplies, vendors, contractors being chased by a larger pool of money, and it's causing costs to get much higher than was anticipated when we made that first estimate a year ago. But it's literally in the Beck Road project, it's about 45% is what our current estimates are over about a 2-year period.
Another case in point, as you know, we usually do pavement marking and crack seal at the same time when we bid that. We did bid them out at the same time. I pulled the pavement marking because it was, well, we only got one result, and there's only 2 competitors in this area that do pavement marking, and one of them did not bid on this one, and come to find out they retired. So it was one group, and it was up 42% from last year. And so now we're trying to make decisions as to how much we're going to mark. We're going to probably back off on a lot of the legends that are out there that are fairly good yet, and that's why it's not before you tonight. So there are some other things that are at play that yeah, it's, like Steve said, pavement and asphalt is increasing.
Anybody else? Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to award the 2023 Major Road West Maple Road Program to Cadillac Asphalt LLC of Wixom, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $1,513,067.52 from Major Road Construction Account number 202-553-974.395 and authorize the associated budget amendment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business number 2 is a recommendation to award the contract for the annual crack sealing and seal coating program to Wolverine Seal Coating of Jackson, Michigan for the unit price of $1.17 per pound for crack sealing and 0.095 per square foot for seal coating, and with funding allocated from local road capital program pavement preservation account number 203-554-976.393. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Sickma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this crack sealing takes into effect each year. We base it on a poundage basis, and we worked with Howell, Farmington, Fenton, Fowlerville, and Milford on this particular RFP, and we put it out for them. And each community estimated how much they planned to put out, and Wolverine came back with very good pricing again this year. As Member Sharp had pointed out, only 3.5% higher than the year previous, and we've worked with Wolverine in the past, and they've done well for us, and we would like to continue to work with them this year.
Any questions? Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor. In the past, we were only working with Howell for economy of scale. So we had 4 new towns to it.
Yep.
That seems like a lot. I mean, that's great.
We have
any sense of how much that impacted the price?
We're thinking that's how it was. It was able to stay a little lower because of the use that they'll be purchasing. They have better purchasing power for all of that material, we've worked with the different groups in the past. This time we just had a lot more participation from each of the communities, which I think helps. So.
Well, I hope so, yeah.
Yep.
But so only 3.5%. Would have been higher than that, but no sense of how much more higher?
No, not really, no.
I understand you would know that, but.
And they could have.
They wouldn't tell you.
No, they wouldn't tell us that either, but, some of the folks prior, that we've talked to that didn't bid on this, they would find it difficult just to purchase the material for that. So they are getting a deal somewhere on their materials, and
fantastic.
We monitor that to make sure that it is the stuff that we spec'd out, so it's there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Sickman, so the 50,000, do we just mark and seal until we hit 50, or is that just kind of a guideline and 50 is the number? What if we need more? You don't have to come back to council for, you found a road that unexpectedly needs another $5,000 of seal. The guys are out there. You're going to do it, right?
We would most likely do it for the $5,000, but anything really more than 10,000, we would come back to you for that. But I'm not asking for 60,000 at this time. We do plan to utilize as much as we can, but we
based on your expertise and knowledge of what's going on out there. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Gatchel.
Thank you. I think it was maybe last year or 2 years ago, someone had brought up keeping an eye on them as they're going along to make sure that we're being a little bit more judicious with what we're doing out there instead of painting pretty pictures as it looks like they've done sometimes in the past. Have we gotten things under control a little bit, or did we notice that they were being fine about it?
We did speak with them, and we do have somebody going out typically on a daily basis with them just to make sure that happens. on occasion we get drawn away for different
Yeah.
things, and we can't always do that, but
Yeah.
that's our
Okay.
goals,
All right.
for sure.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to award the contract for the annual crack sealing and seal coating program to Wolverine Seal Coating of Jackson, Michigan for the unit price of $1.17 per pound for crack sealing and 9.5 cents per square foot for seal coating with funding allocated from local road capital program pavement preservation account number 203-554-976.393. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
New business number 3 is the annual review of city-owned property and determination of use classifications per the city's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3.16. Do I have a motion?
So,
Moved. Support. Mr. Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a routine item required by the city ordinances related to revenue and finance. City council is required to annually review all city-owned properties and review the use classifications assigned to them. There are 8 different classifications. I won't walk through all of them individually, but each one, to a certain degree, or different categories of them have different requirements of, how the city can act with them. As an example, natural resource and park properties require that the city actually have a referendum vote if you were to, as an example, try to sell them or to do something, whereas economic development properties do not carry that level of restriction. So past city councils made the determination to be more specific about how it would use different types of properties. There are not any, I'll say, overly significant changes, but there are a few since the last time this was reviewed. Specifically, 2 properties were sold, 3084 and 3073 Partridge were sold in 2020. The city also added 3 properties, 3343 Renton, 221 North Wixom, 205 North Wixom, which were purchased last year and classified as economic development properties. And we are also under contract to purchase 119 and 121 North Wixom, which would also be classified as economic development properties. Really, the only thing that when we were putting this together that stood out as maybe an item worth reconsidering its classification would be sorry, I just lost the address. 48755 Pontiac Trail, which is a half-acre parcel owned by the city. It's just northeast of the community center. It's where the Munshaw House and used to be and where the barn still is. It's currently classified as a historic property. There are some historic characteristics to that barn. It is not a designated historic property. So it could be potentially reclassified as economic development. It doesn't necessarily impact, what becomes of the barn one way or the other. But just a suggestion or, a possible thing. It doesn't have to be done. That's why we didn't specifically recommend to change that classification, but just as, I guess, a discussion point. In looking through the ordinance, there is not any specific requirement for to be able to change a property from historic to economic development. It would simply take a simple majority as opposed to a referendum vote or something like that. With that, we did provide all of the city-owned properties and as well as a map to kind of look at what we own. And I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Councilmember Gacho.
Thank you. I feel like I've said it for like 8 years now, but there are a few economic development properties I don't understand why we still have on our books. We send DPW out to cut the grass and maintain them, and it's a waste of their time and our money, realistically. Most of them are former well house sites. So at Highgate on the Lake, at Loon Lake and Chanticleer Circle, there's one in Indian Wells, Meadowwood Park, the apartments, and then in Hidden Creek as well. So I'm just wondering if we could investigate, or what it would take for us to investigate selling those to developers to add a few more houses here and there, because I think that would be helpful. The one in Birch Run is a wetland. I looked on the floodplain map, so that no one can, there's like 3 feet that isn't in the flood zone, so we're kind of stuck with that one. And then the only other thing that came to mind is in Palmer Lake Estates, we have that tiny little lot, and we've held it in case we need it for the privately owned parcel to the north at Loon Lake and Wixom. It's zoned business right now, that lot, and obviously it has never been developed. Have we ever discussed with them if they would want it zoned residential, and then they could sell it to a developer and expand the neighborhood or something? So I think the last proposal I heard there was a long time ago. It was another gas station, and all the residents came out, they didn't want the bright lights. So I think it's more feasible having Commerce's developments across the street are residential. It's residential. I don't know why we would think it needs to be commercial, but.
You have a couple different questions there, but I do have answers for most of them. So your question about former well house sites, that is actually a research project that my predecessor had done.
Okay.
And I found a lot of that information. Actually, City Council has authorized the sale of most of them, and then after the fact, some we can't sell.
Okay.
Based on the way that some of those well house sites were conveyed, really our only option, I think, would be to give them back to the homeowners associations, which could be done. It's kind of I'll say it's a bit of a process, and whether they want to take them is also a different question, and they become responsible for them. But we could look more into that, but they also, I don't know that would add much in the way of, could add some development opportunities perhaps. But the one, there is one that I will say is on the to-do list. That is a property off Loon Lake Road on Chanticleer. It's a former well house site. We do have full deed to that. We can sell it. It looks like in the past we tried to, and there was a proposal in, I think, to do 3 houses, and somehow that fell through. I will say that I've literally got the agenda item is sitting on my wall. I just haven't had the chance to put it out there and kind of restart that effort. So that's something we would like to do. For the rest of them, it's more complicated.
I think 2 houses on that site is probably more realistic, but even just so DPW, we always see that we have overtime hours, and we hear that we have a tough time hiring summer crew and what have you, and that's what these lots are, is summer crew work realistically. So whatever we can put back on the books, HOAs would be smart to take them back and sell them to a developer, and then you can sell those for tens of thousands each, and then no one has to pay their dues anymore for a little while.
Or we might be able to work with the homeowners associations to basically do all the work for them, and then we sell them to a developer too. Yeah. That's potentially an option. If I'm being completely transparent with you, it's just a bit time consuming to pull all that together. It's certainly something that we would like to do. Chanticleer specifically is one I'd really like to get done, hopefully this fiscal year. But the other thing is with how the housing market has changed, it probably would have been more attractive 4 or 5 years ago than it is today. But I did want to make sure I talked about the last property you talked about in the Palmer Lake Estates that. Yeah. So I have had conversations with the property owner who they're trying to sell it right now. It is not zoned commercial. That's actually a consent judgment that allows commercial. It's zoned R3. The consent judgment, I'll summarize. Long story short, the city wanted it to be residential. The developer fought very hard for it to be commercial. They thought, and continue to think, that its highest and best use is commercial. It's hard to sell now with what the basically allowable uses. There are 3 specific different site configurations, very specific uses that were approved as a part of the consent judgment. And they continue to try to sell those and haven't been all that successful. Part of the logic at the time, and continues to be the case, is that based on the size of the parcel and how you could connect it through, the number of units that you could get for the cost, or what they would like to sell it for, it doesn't quite pencil for them. Now that brings up a different question of maybe it should be marked for less than it's being marketed currently. But that really gets to a better question, or a different question, of the value of land that's zoned for residential uses compared to, let's say, industrial or commercial uses. there are significant differences between that, and that's part of, I think, where the original battle was and where the kind of holdup is today. So in the interim, I guess I would recommend continuing to hold on to that. We've made it aware. I literally had that conversation probably a month ago with the real estate agents, just to remind them that we still own this and that, hey, we're here to work together on it, and that's why we have it. They didn't seem that receptive to it, but I think that's, still in the longer run probably a good decision, because the end outcome is most likely going to be residential.
Yeah, I mean, it's commercial brokers, public records, it has it down as business, which is odd, not residential. But yeah, I mean, marketing as commercial properties worked out so well for them the last 15 years, so hopefully they'll get it one day, but.
They did have, it's actually kind of interesting when you look at the old plans, what they called for was either a daycare or a medical office building or both. Or a bank, I'm sorry, that was the other option. And it's funny because, market, uses have changed over the course of time, and there's not much of a market for office. And now there will be a new daycare going in at Charms and Wixom Road, so that may cancel out that option as well. So, yeah, we'll see.
Thank you.
And for the record, I know the well houses in Hidden Creek, they are maintained and mowed by the homeowners association, so I'm sure they would love to have a chat with you about purchasing that property.
Okay.
Councilmember Smiley, and then
Just one little tiny thing. And talking about those well houses, I know we've talked about, these properties more recently than 2020, and part of the list, it started with changes since the last review in 2020. Is that just a typo or some extra words? Because we've talked about this. We've reviewed the properties more recently than 2020, correct?
And that is actually a typo. I believe it was 2021. We didn't do it last year.
Oh, we are.
And that was my fault.
But not that overdue. Okay. Well, I know sometimes we talk about things up here, and I'm like, God, I feel like we just talked about that, and it was actually 2-3 years ago.
It was 2 years. It was just before my time with the city started. Steve had actually completed that, and then I was not aware, and then I became aware, and so I made sure that we did it this year.
Well, our requirement to review these things annually is self-imposed. That's not some, state or county mandate. We just, okay. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Berman.
My comments also focused around the well house, and I guess I'm not necessarily familiar with the one out in Highgate, but looking on the map, the one on Winding Way and the one on Apache Trail, both of those look like they're being maintained as parks currently within the subdivisions, and I feel like going in and putting 3 new houses on either of those lots would probably change the characteristic of those neighborhoods. Yeah. And perhaps those two, if not some of the other ones, should be changed to the classification of park and maintained as a park, because frankly speaking, that's what it is now. And more importantly, we don't really have parks in some of those areas, and that might, look better on our website for our facilities, for our residents, and marketing to the city. And more importantly, I don't necessarily know that the residents there would want those ones being sold and developed. Some of the other ones that are maybe more out of the sub, it makes sense. But at least the one on Winding Way and the one on Apache Trail, I just don't see how selling those and developing them would make sense at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The one on Winding Way, you could put 3 houses on it, but there's been talk in the past that the homeowners association would maybe put 2 houses there. With there's 3 commons areas in that subdivision, so if you take that commons area away, you're missing out on some extra park land, but I mean, they would like to at least talk to the city about purchasing the property, because the money that they sell for that could go for some upkeep on the other commons areas and bike trails and stuff that they have there. So, I think it'd be up to each homeowners association what they would want to do with it.
But I don't think necessarily we should
But-
keep it in the classification as that.
But if we move it to parks, how hard is it to sell?
Significantly harder.
That's,
It requires a referendum vote. You have to take it to the electorate. The classifications here don't, there's no reason that you can't continue to maintain them as they have been. But it is surprising. Just literally the action of changing the classification could significantly alter if you changed your mind in the future. And given that there are conversations that need to be had with each of the homeowners associations in order to really do anything anyways, I guess it would be a little preemptive to look to change any classifications at this point.
I'm not suggesting changing tonight, I'm just suggesting that where they've been staying for the last 10 years needs to be looked at.
we can talk to homeowners associations and bring it up at a later date too, if we feel like, that's the way we want to move and that's the way they want to move. We can always change it at a later date, so. Councilmember Gatchel?
Thank you. Yes, to reiterate the mayor's point, Hidden Creek has two pretty good size neighborhood parks already. I know you had mentioned you're unfamiliar with the one at Chanticleer. Highgate and the Lake and Highgate and the Green both have large parks in the middle of them as well. This is kind of a corner lot from Chanticleer Circle and Loon Lake Road. And right now it just sits vacant, and occasionally when people have like large parties and it turns into grass parking when you drive by it. And then for Indian Wells, I mean, if the neighborhood wanted to buy it and maintain it as a park, that's fine, but then it is not our responsibility at that point. And that's kind of where I'm coming from, is we keep these on the books. We have to maintain them. If that's a waste of our resources. So if an HOA wants to do that, fine, let's sell it to them. As far as that little park area though, it does have a trail and maybe a few benches, but there are two courts that don't have houses at the end of them. It could very easily be connected, and you could probably add 6 houses in there. So again, the neighborhoods could have the option to help themselves out by selling those and covering costs for a while for whatever. And again, that neighborhood backs up to Gunner Mattel on the airline trail, so they're not really hurting for park space either. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? So is this for just discussion tonight, or are we looking to?
Yeah, you would only have to make a motion if you sought to change the classification of any of them. If you don't, you do not have to make any action tonight.
Councilmember Gatchel?
Thank you.
I know what you're
I'll make a motion to reclassify the Munshaw Barn / former house site to economic development from historical.
I'll second it.
All right, do we have any discussion on that?
Yeah.
Councilmember Sharp?
What does that mean again? I'm not a big fan of motions of surprises from the dais, as council knows, so I need some data.
Well, we did throw it in the cover memo as a suggestion, or at least something to talk about. Functionally, it really doesn't make a significant difference. What I would say is that if you were going to do something there someday, you would want to change the classification at that point. Really what it does is, if you change the classification, to a degree helps give staff a better understanding of what the expectation is. Given that we are not giving you any information tonight to specifically ask you to make that change, I can understand your point of, maybe we come back with more specifics or a better plan. At this point, we don't have a plan.
I don't even know which colored dot I'm looking at on the map.
It's very tiny. It's amongst all of the blue in the middle of the city where City Hall campus is.
Yeah.
It's that red sliver, just sliver.
Oh, the yellow dot in the middle there, or the red sliver off to the right?
Hey, Drew, can I ask a question, if you don't mind, Councilmember Sharp?
Yeah.
If it stays zoned historical, and let's say we decide to fix the barn, if it's historical, do we have to follow certain guidelines, where if we moved it to economic development, would be less stringent? I mean, we could, when it's something is historical, you've got to keep the historical right, but if it's the other way, it's easy, it would be easier to
It depends on
rehab.
the standards that are being applied. So this is historic in the sense of the city has defined it as a historic piece of property. It is not defined as a historic property by state standards or by federal standards.
Okay, it's
So
not like, it's
therefore,
not like the parks. If we,
Yes,
yeah,
it
okay.
is not like a park.
Okay.
But you're talking about the requirements, they would all be self-imposed.
Okay.
Until you started to seek those higher designations, which my understanding is it's not eligible for. But that would open you up, A, to funding opportunities, but B, then those more stringent requirements of what a rehab would be.
Yeah, I was just thinking that'd be another reason why we should reclassify it, but if it doesn't, you know.
Yeah, I mean, now I'll give you a flip side to that. If there are opportunities in the future to, maybe a funding opportunity does come up, there could be some value to calling it historic. But really, that's the barn, that's the structure that we're interested. This is talking about the property itself. So that is also kind of a nuance here. That's why we didn't necessarily bring it as a recommendation. It was really just a discussion point to, have a conversation about it. I don't know if City Council has had that, so.
Thank you, Councilmember Sharp. Let me interrupt.
I'm done, thank you.
Anybody else? Deputy Mayor Resnick.
So the likelihood of, you may have more opportunities for grants if we left it as historical?
Theoretically, all your economic development grants would still be applicable, and then you could. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said I thought there was a lot of opportunity for that, but there's more.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I got a motion and a second on to change the classification of 48755 Pontiac Trail from historic to economic development property. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I was waiting.
Voice vote, then I'd know whether to go one way or the other, but I just didn't say anything, so I got an eye.
So it has 6-0?
7-0, there was no objection.
No.
All right. So do
I'm
we?
paid to abstain. I'm paid to vote.
You vote, President.
That's what I'm saying.
So
I'm not
are we?
council, I'm not.
Unless you have any
I'm
other
paid to
property
abstain.
that you'd like to discuss.
I did have one more.
Councilmember Behrman.
1047 Wixom Road. It looks like from the map, it's just like a 40-foot parcel between two residential properties.
That is correct.
And it looks like one of the residents there is already maintaining that property and we're not.
That appears to be the case, yes. I would defer to Tim on whether we actually do anything with that.
No, we don't. Just
No.
roadside mowing, but.
I guess maybe we need to approach that resident and see if they would be interested in that piece of property. They're maintaining it as their yard, and I think it's fenced in. It looks like it's fenced in. Yeah, so like they fenced in that piece of property and we own it. So I mean, there's something to be said with, we probably need to say something, or they might have a legal claim for the property anyways. That would be my only other suggestion.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. That's
Anybody else? Councilmember Gatchel?
Yeah, I think just that at least what I gathered is the general consensus is if we can get some of these off the books, whether it's the HOAs or in that case, the Good Neighbor program, living next door and fencing it in as your own potentially, then let's do it.
Understood. Since we were talking about well houses, just the other one that we've From a staff perspective, we put a decent amount of time in on is there's a well house property behind where the new used car lot will be. You'll see it. It's a utility property right now, but that's another one that we've spent some time on kind of figuring out what to do with that. So it's farther down, just north of West Road. But so I bring that up to say there are a number of these. We will certainly continue to look into them. Maybe bringing proposals. We will do our best, but they're complicated. That's I can say. There's a lot that goes into them.
Right. And we don't need a motion to come out of that or anything, correct? All right, very good. And that concludes the new business portion of tonight's City Council meeting. We'll move on to call to the public. The second call to the public, the rules are the same as the first call to the public, except you can speak whatever's on your mind. Do we have anybody for the second call to the public? I'll close the second call to the public and move on to City Manager's comments. City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. My report, my City Manager update has conversation in there about, or content in there about the loss experience review that we went through with the Michigan Municipal League. I've got good news there. You would like to see your mod factor, which is basically your standard workers' compensation premium, and multiplying it to reflect your actual loss experience. So if you have a better than average loss experience, it would go down from the average of 1, and that's the goal, is to be at less than 1. We are still at 0.99, and the rep from the Michigan Municipal League said that's pretty unusual for somebody with our number of FTEs. He was very well pleased with that. We've historically in recent years been a little bit lower than that. We've had a couple of experiences that have raised it slightly. By the same token, other experiences will drop off, and we may well drop in the future or be in that same vicinity. So we're pleased with that result, and I mentioned in there that I wanted to congratulate and thank all the employees for their work in achieving this. It's basically them doing their jobs in a careful fashion and not getting themselves injured by doing something in an unsafe manner. That's what can often happen and can cause problems on a workers' comp factor, and we are at a less than 1 factor, so I appreciate both supervision and the employees' work at maintaining that rating and putting us in that good position. So thank you and congratulations to all of our employees on that. The other thing that I'm going to add on to the update, which wasn't reflected, was there was what was referred to as a power outage town hall that was held by Senator Jim Runstad yesterday. There were about 50 attendees, I would say, at the event. Several Wixom residents were there and brought up their concerns. We have an ongoing situation with a power outage that happened on 12/31, just after midnight on 12/31 at 3 o'clock in the morning, where there was a substantial power outage that affected a lot of homes, and there was a lot of resulting damage that resulted from either a surge with the outage or with restoration. There's a lot of differing information on that. We were in contact with DTE. We've got an outside consultant that we've contracted with to try to take a look at that and get better information on it. And as a result of that, we're looking to get more information from residents that might have an opinion on their level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction with DTE. So we're asking for anybody that's interested to provide information to us. We're looking for information on power outages, most specifically. The frequency of those power outages, how many times a year are you experiencing outages? The duration when you have experienced power outages, how long was the power out, for what period of time? If there were associated damages, you can provide information on that. And then just concerns or perhaps compliments in general about DTE's service quality in the city of Wixom. That's what we're looking for. So if you're interested in that as a resident, we encourage you to provide feedback to us. You can go to email address citymanager@wixomgov.org to provide that kind of feedback. Again, that's citymanager@wixomgov.org. We're very interested in that feedback from our residents that are affected by that, also business owners that are affected by that. I've heard lots of anecdotal stories from people about repetitive power outages, and we're looking to effectuate some attention from DTE on that front and hopefully bring about positive change and make things better for the residents in terms of the quality of service that they're receiving, lessening those power outages, lessening the duration, those kind of things. So again, please provide feedback if you're interested. citymanager@wixomgov.org, and that's all I have.
Very good. Assistant City Manager Benson?
I do not have any additional updates.
And that moves us to council comments. Councilmember Garland Fox?
I have no comments this evening, although I do have a question. Did we finalize the date for our budget goals discussions?
Yes, right before the meeting, it's going to be 8:22, 4:22, no, 3:22. I can't lose track of my months here. 3:22.
Thank you very much.
I was talking about budget work sessions in April, I apologize, so it's 3:22.
What time?
At 6 o'clock, right?
That would be the case, yeah. It's a non-council meeting night, so that we can have a longer duration of time to go over things. We've got goals, goal-setting conversations to have, discussions to have, as well as the mayor and council requested budget session.
Thank you.
Yep, on March 22nd, just to make sure I didn't screw that up.
6 p.m.
At 6 p.m.
Councilmember Behrman.
Thank you. No additional comments this evening.
Councilmember Gaccio.
Thank you. Relating to DTE, have we, I cannot recall if it's on any of our social accounts, have we put together like a Google form for residents to fill out?
That's where we're looking to get started on a survey that we'd like to actively try to push out there and try to get feedback. So that's something we're working on. We haven't yet established it.
Okay.
That's the kind of thing we're looking
Yeah,
at.
so like social accounts and then the Friday email blast, I
Right.
think. I know you brought it up in the HOA meeting last night and whatnot, so it's getting out there, but I think it'll be a little bit easier if there's a Google form rather than people having to email
Absolutely.
a separate account.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's just the first step, is asking for that feedback.
All right.
We're going to try to formalize it a little bit.
Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Where to start? No, I don't have anything.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Beal. One quick thing, this document you gave us today, will you send this out digitally, a digital file as well?
Yes, we will distribute that likely with the agenda
Good, good, okay.
this week.
Other than that, just everybody have a happy and safe St. Patrick's Day, and spring is a week away. Bring it on.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the DTE, the town hall. That DTE, by the way, was a no-show, as was consumers, as was members of the Public Service Commission. So it was. We were talking again. We thanked Senator Runstead for holding it. It was taped, and those comments, I guess, are going to be directed to DTE, and DTE at least promised that they would get back individually with the 19 individuals that came to the podium last night. It was interesting too. Comments ranged from concern about the CEO pay all the way to, you know, the Public Service Commission is a gubernatorial appointees. There's no legislative oversight for the Public Service Commission, so there was a lot of comments about that. But more interestingly, we're not alone. I mean, Oakland County, I guess it's the second worst in terms of number of outages. There was one gentleman there from White Lake that said he logged 535 hours of outage over the course of the last 10 or 15 years. So there was quite a bit of comment from public. There was two members, one from Lyon Township and one from Waterford, that were in charge of senior living facilities, and they said that's where the real hardship is when you have. I think one of them had 6 days without power. Another had 3, where seniors don't have anywhere to go, right? And they have to look for public warming centers like city halls or whatever. But that was quite enlightening, actually, to listen to the comments from the public. So hopefully, with our collection of input and hiring of this outside consultant, maybe we can get to some root causes and at least get some responses from DTE. So it was very enlightening to go. So. All I have.
Very good. And all I have tonight is everybody have a happy and safe St. Patrick's Day. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, no. That was last week.